I spent years trying to make my family hear me. Then a complete stranger said it once, and suddenly, I was right all along. I've been called dramatic, oversensitive, and attention-seeking my entire life. Not by strangers. Not by friends. By my own family. And for 26 years, I started to believe them. Until the day a stranger walked into our lives and said exactly what I'd been saying for years. And suddenly, I was the sane one. I'm Maya. This is the story of how I learned to stop screaming into the void. My family isn't cruel. They're not abusive in any textbook sense. They're just dismissive. It's like I've been speaking a language they've collectively decided not to understand. And the more I tried to make them hear me, the crazier they made me feel. It started small, like these things always do. I was 8 when I told my mom that the way Grandma spoke to me made me feel bad. Grandma had a habit of commenting on my body, telling me I was getting chunky, that I should watch what I eat, that boys don't like girls who are too big. I was 8. I weighed maybe 60 pounds. Oh, Maya, she doesn't mean anything by it, my mom said, barely looking up from her phone. That's just how Grandma is. She grew up in a different time. But it makes me feel bad. You're being too sensitive. She loves you. I learned then that my feelings could be wrong. That what hurt me could be reframed as love, as generational difference, as anything except what it actually was. When I was 12, I told my parents that my brother Ethan was mean to me. Not sibling rivalry mean, actually mean. He'd hide my things, accidentally delete my school projects from the shared computer, tell his friends I was weird, and to avoid me at school. When I confronted him, he'd laugh and tell me to stop being so dramatic. That's just what brothers do, my dad said. You need to toughen up, Maya. The world isn't going to coddle you. He deleted my entire history project. I have to start over. I'm sure it was an accident. He told me he did it on purpose. My dad sighed like I was exhausting him. You're always stirring up drama. Can't you two just get along? Ethan never got in trouble. I got a lecture about being more forgiving. In high school, I started having panic attacks. The first one happened during a chemistry test. My heart was racing. I couldn't breathe. My vision tunneled. I ran out of the classroom and called my mom from the nurse's office. I think something's wrong with me. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was dying. You're just stressed about the test. Everyone gets test anxiety, Maya. You need to learn to push through it. Mom, this felt different. You're fine. Go back to class. The panic attacks continued. They got worse. I started having them at home, in the car, at the grocery store. Each time, my family had an explanation that wasn't anxiety. I was being dramatic. I was attention-seeking. I was making excuses to get out of things. I was manipulating them. When I was 17, I researched anxiety disorders on my own and brought printed articles to my parents. I think I have panic disorder. Look at these symptoms. They match exactly what I've been experiencing. My mom glanced at the papers. You've been spending too much time on the internet. You can't diagnose yourself with things you read online. I'm not diagnosing myself. I'm asking if we can see a doctor. There's nothing wrong with you that learning some coping skills wouldn't fix. You just need to relax. I didn't see a doctor. College was supposed to be my escape, but I only made it 3 semesters before I had to come home. The panic attacks had gotten so severe that I couldn't function. I'd lost 15 pounds because anxiety made it impossible to eat. I wasn't sleeping. I was barely attending classes. When I told my parents I needed to take a medical leave, they were furious. You're throwing away your education because you can't handle a little stress? My dad said. It's not a little stress, Dad. I'm falling apart. Everyone finds college hard at first. You just need to adjust. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I'm having panic attacks 3 times a day. Then you need to try harder to manage them. Other people deal with stress without falling apart. My mom added, I think you're just homesick and looking for an excuse to come back. You've always been dramatic about things. I came home anyway. They treated me like I'd failed them. For the next 3 years, I worked retail jobs while living at home and trying to save money to move out. The anxiety never went away. I learned to hide it better, to excuse myself to bathrooms when I felt attacks coming, to keep my struggles invisible because sharing them only led to dismissal. My family developed a narrative about me. Maya, the fragile one. Maya, who couldn't handle college. Maya, who was always complaining about something. Maya, who needed to stop being so sensitive and just deal with life like everyone else. At family dinners, they'd make jokes about my episodes. When I tried to explain how their words hurt me, they'd tell me I was being too sensitive. When I'd set boundaries, please don't comment on my eating habits, please don't joke about my anxiety, they'd accuse me of being controlling and unable to take a joke. The worst part wasn't the dismissal itself. It was the gaslighting that came with it. They'd tell me I was remembering things wrong, that conversations I clearly recalled had never happened, that I was twisting their words, that my interpretation of events was skewed by my anxiety and depression. I started recording conversations on my phone just to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy, that the things I remembered had actually been said. I never showed the recordings to anyone. What would be the point? They'd just say I was being paranoid and invasive. By the time I was 26, I'd learned to keep my mouth shut. I smiled through family dinners. I didn't share my feelings. I didn't ask for support. I was pleasant and surface level and completely disconnected from all of them. I'd also finally scraped together enough money to move into a tiny studio apartment across town. I was working as an administrative assistant at a dental office, not glamorous, but stable. I was seeing a therapist I paid for out of pocket because I'd finally found a sliding scale clinic. I was on anti-anxiety medication that I'd had to fight my doctor to prescribe because young people are too quick to medicate normal stress. I was surviving. Barely, but surviving. Then my brother Ethan got engaged. His fiancée's name was Rachel. I'd met her twice before the engagement. Once at a family barbecue where we'd exchanged maybe 10 words, and once at Ethan's birthday dinner where she'd been quiet and polite. She seemed nice enough, if a bit reserved. After the engagement, my mom insisted on a girls' day so Rachel could get to know the family better. It was me, my mom's sister Carol, and Rachel. We went to lunch at a trendy restaurant downtown. The conversation was the usual surface-level stuff. Wedding planning, dress shopping, venue options. Rachel was appropriately enthusiastic. My mom and Aunt Carol were in full wedding planning mode, suggesting everything from flowers to photographers. Then my mom made a comment that, in any other context, would have been innocuous. Maya, you'll need to start watching your figure before the wedding. I want my children to look good in the photos. I felt the familiar tightness in my chest. I'd gained some weight since starting my anxiety medication, a common side effect my doctor had warned me about. I was maybe 20 pounds heavier than I'd been in high school. Not dramatically different, just different. I look fine, Mom, I said quietly. I'm just saying, you have 6 months. That's plenty of time to lose a few pounds. Aunt Carol jumped in. Your mother's right, honey. Wedding photos are forever. You want to look your best. I felt my face getting hot. I'm not going on a diet for Ethan's wedding. See, there you go being defensive again, my mom said, her tone shifting to that particular brand of exasperation reserved just for me. I'm trying to help you. I don't need that kind of help. You're so sensitive. I can't say anything to you without you taking it the wrong way. I was about to respond, probably something defensive that would prove her point, when Rachel spoke up. Actually, she said, her voice calm but firm, what you just said to Maya was inappropriate. You commented on her body, she set a boundary, and you dismissed her feelings. That's not okay. The table went silent. My mom stared at Rachel like she'd started speaking in tongues. I'm sorry. You heard me. What you said was hurtful, and when Maya tried to tell you that, you made it about her being too sensitive instead of acknowledging that you said something hurtful. That's gaslighting. I couldn't breathe. Someone had said it. Someone had actually said it. My mom's face was turning red. I was not gaslighting anyone. I was giving my daughter advice. Unsolicited advice about her body, followed by dismissing her feelings when she objected. That's textbook dismissive behavior. Aunt Carol tried to jump in. Rachel, you don't understand. Maya has always been very sensitive about. No, Rachel interrupted. I understand perfectly. You're about to tell me that this is just how Maya is, that she's always been dramatic or oversensitive, and that what just happened is somehow her fault for reacting negatively to being body shamed. Am I close? Aunt Carol's mouth opened and closed. Rachel turned to me. You told them you didn't want to be talked to that way, right? And they made it about you being too sensitive. I nodded, not trusting my voice. How long has this been happening? My whole life, I whispered. Rachel looked at my mom. You've been invalidating your daughter's feelings for her entire life? And you wonder why she's anxious. Now wait just a minute.
No.
I won't wait. I'm a therapist. I work with clients who have anxiety disorders, and do you know what one of the most common contributing factors is? Growing up in environments where their feelings are consistently dismissed, where they're told they're too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, where they learn that their perception of reality is less valid than everyone else's. The restaurant suddenly felt very small. My mom's voice was shaking. I don't appreciate being attacked by someone who barely knows our family. I'm not attacking you. I'm pointing out a pattern of behavior that's harmful. And the fact that your first response is to get defensive instead of considering that maybe your daughter has been trying to tell you something important for years and you haven't been listening, that tells me everything I need to know. Aunt Carol stood up. I'm not going to sit here and be lectured by someone who's been part of this family for 5 minutes. That's fine, Rachel said calmly. But Maya, if you want to leave, I'll drive you home. I looked at my mom, at Aunt Carol. They were both staring at Rachel like she'd ruined everything. And something inside me cracked open. Yeah, I said, standing up. I'd like to leave. My mom reached for my arm. Maya, don't be ridiculous.
Sit down.
We're having lunch.
No.
I'm leaving. And Rachel's right. About all of it. I've been trying to tell you for years that the way you talk to me hurts, and you've never listened. Not once. That's not true. It is true. When I was 8 and Grandma made me feel bad about my body, you told me I was too sensitive. When I was 12 and Ethan bullied me, you told me I was dramatic. When I was 17 and having panic attacks, you told me nothing was wrong with me. You've spent my entire life telling me that my feelings are invalid, my experiences aren't real, and my pain doesn't matter. And I'm done. Maya, you're making a scene? I'm stating facts. And the fact that your response is to tell me I'm making a scene? That's exactly what Rachel was talking about. I grabbed my purse. Rachel stood up, put a 20 on the table for her lunch, and followed me out. We sat in her car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, while I ugly cried. She didn't try to make me stop. She didn't tell me to calm down, or that it wasn't that bad. She just handed me tissues and waited. When I finally could speak, I said, "Thank you." You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You said everything I've been trying to say for years. And they heard you. They didn't listen, but they heard you. Because you're an outsider. A professional. Not their dramatic daughter. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Maya, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me.
What I saw in there.
That's emotional abuse. It's subtle, it's normalized in your family, and I'm sure they don't think of it that way. But that's what it is. And the fact that you've developed severe anxiety? That's not a coincidence. That's a response to living in an environment where you're constantly told that your reality is wrong. I'd thought about it before in abstract terms. But hearing someone say it out loud, hearing the words emotional abuse, it was like something locked inside me finally broke open. What do I do? That's up to you. But if I were you, I'd set some very firm boundaries. And I'd be prepared for them not to respect those boundaries. Because people who've gotten away with dismissing you for 26 years aren't going to suddenly start taking you seriously just because someone called them out once. She was right. My phone started blowing up before we even got back to my apartment. My mom, Aunt Carol, even my dad who'd heard about lunch from my mom. All of them saying some variation of the same thing. I'd overreacted. Rachel was out of line. I owed them an apology. Family doesn't air their issues in public. I was being dramatic. Again. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I texted Ethan. Need to talk to you about Rachel and what happened at lunch. Call me when you can. He called 20 minutes later. Mom said you freaked out at lunch and Rachel was super rude to everyone. That's not what happened. Can we meet in person? We met at a coffee shop near his apartment. I told him everything, not just about lunch, but about years of dismissal, of having my feelings invalidated, of being made to feel crazy for experiencing normal human emotions. I told him about the panic attacks in high school, about having to leave college, about struggling with anxiety that I'd never gotten proper help for because our family didn't believe in mental health issues.
He was quiet for a long time.
Then, I didn't know it was that bad. Because no one listened when I tried to tell them. I mean, I knew you were sensitive. Ethan, I'm not sensitive. I'm a normal person with normal emotional responses who grew up in a family that pathologized those responses. There's a difference. He ran his hand through his hair. Rachel really thinks it's abuse? She's a therapist. She sees this stuff professionally. And yes, she called it emotional abuse. That seems harsh. Does it? Or does it seem harsh because you've benefited from being the golden child who never got his reality questioned? He flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? When you bullied me in middle school, who got in trouble? When you deleted my school project, who got called dramatic? When you and Mom gang up on me at family dinners and make jokes about my anxiety, who gets told they can't take a joke? I didn't know you felt that way. Because you never asked. No one ever asked. We sat in silence. Finally, Ethan said, I'm sorry. I should have noticed. I should have stood up for you.
Yeah.
You should have. What do you want me to do now? I want you to believe me. I want you to stop making jokes at my expense. I want you to tell Mom and Dad that they need to take my mental health seriously. And I want you to make sure Rachel knows that I appreciate what she did today more than I can express. She felt terrible about causing a scene at lunch. She didn't cause a scene. She stopped one. There's a difference. He nodded slowly. Okay.
I'll talk to them.
But Maya, you need to know that they're not going to change overnight. Or maybe at all. I know. That's why I'm setting boundaries. I'm done trying to make them see me. If they want a relationship with me, it's going to be on my terms. What does that mean? It means I'm not coming to family dinners where I get criticized and mocked. It means I'm not responding to texts that dismiss my feelings. It means if someone can't respect a boundary I set, I remove myself from the situation. Every time. No exceptions. They're going to say you're tearing the family apart. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just stopping holding it together for people who don't appreciate the effort. The next family dinner was 2 weeks later. Sunday dinner at my parents' house, a tradition I'd been attending weekly for years despite how miserable it made me. I didn't go. My mom called. Where are you? Dinner started 20 minutes ago. I'm at home. I'm not coming. What do you mean you're not coming? It's family dinner. I don't want to come to family dinners right now. I need space. This is about what happened at lunch with Rachel, isn't it? Maya, you're being ridiculous. We're your family. You can't just cut us off over one comment about your weight. It's not about one comment, Mom. It's about 26 years of comments. Of dismissal. Of being told my feelings don't matter. I've tried to talk to you about this hundreds of times, and you've never listened. So I'm done trying. I've always listened to you.
No. You've always talked at me.
There's a difference. And until you're ready to actually hear what I'm saying, to acknowledge that the way you've treated me has been harmful, I'm not subjecting myself to more of it. So, you're just going to abandon your family? I'm setting boundaries. If that feels like abandonment to you, maybe that says something about what you've been expecting from me. I hung up. She called back 3 times. I didn't answer. My dad called next. Then Aunt Carol. Then even my grandmother, who I barely spoke to anyway. All of them with the same message. I was overreacting. I was being dramatic. I was tearing the family apart. I needed to apologize and come to dinner. I didn't respond to any of them. The only person I did talk to was Ethan. He called a few days after the missed dinner. They're losing their minds. Mom is acting like you've died. I'm setting boundaries. That's all. She thinks you hate her. I don't hate her. I'm just protecting myself from a dynamic that's been damaging to my mental health. Rachel said the same thing. How is Rachel doing with all this?
She's fine. She doesn't regret what she said.
She told me she's proud of you for setting boundaries. Something warm bloomed in my chest. She is?
Yeah.
She also said that she understands if you need to distance yourself from family stuff, and that includes the wedding. She doesn't want you to feel pressured to be a bridesmaid if it's going to put you in proximity to people who aren't respecting your boundaries. I hadn't even thought about the wedding. I don't know what I want yet. That's okay. Just know that she supports whatever you decide. And so do I. Thanks, Ethan. I'm sorry it took Rachel saying something for me to actually listen. I should have been listening all along.
Yeah.
You should have. But you're listening now. That's something. The thing about setting boundaries is that it forces people to show you who they really are. For the next 3 months, my family cycled through every manipulation tactic in the book. First came the guilt trips. How could I do this to my mother? Didn't I know how much I was hurting her? Family was supposed to forgive each other. Then came the bargaining. If I'd just come to one dinner, they'd try to be more understanding. If I'd just talk to them, they'd listen. If I'd just give them another chance. Then came the anger. I was selfish. I was cruel. I was holding grudges. I was being immature. Then came the smear campaign. Extended family members I barely knew started calling to tell me I was in the wrong. Family friends left comments on my Facebook posts about respecting your elders. My grandmother left me a voicemail about how disappointed my late grandfather would be in my behavior. Through all of it, I held firm. I'd started seeing a new therapist, one who specialized in family systems and trauma. She helped me understand that what I was doing wasn't cruel or dramatic. It was self-preservation. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm, she told me. Especially people who've been burning you for years. I also started journaling. Writing down every incident I could remember, every time I'd been dismissed or gaslit or told I was too sensitive. It was painful to see it all laid out in black and white.
But it was also validating.
I wasn't crazy. This had really happened. The turning point came 4 months after the lunch incident. My mom showed up at my apartment unannounced on a Saturday morning. I almost didn't let her in, but something in her face made me open the door. I need to talk to you, she said. We sat in my tiny living room, an awkward silence stretching between us. Finally, she spoke. I've been seeing a therapist. Rachel gave me her name. We've been talking about the things you said, about how we've treated you. I waited, and she said some things that I didn't want to hear, about emotional invalidation, about dismissive parenting, about anxiety and where it comes from. Her voice cracked. She said that we taught you not to trust your own feelings, that we made you feel crazy for having normal reactions to hurtful behavior. I still didn't say anything. I didn't think I was doing that. I thought I was helping you, teaching you to be resilient, to not let things bother you so much. I thought. She wiped her eyes. I thought if I acknowledged that what Grandma said hurt you, or that Ethan was being mean, or that you were really suffering, I thought it would make you weaker. I thought you needed to toughen up. That wasn't your job, I said quietly. Your job was to protect me, to validate me, to believe me when I told you something was wrong. I know that now. My therapist said the same thing. She said I was so focused on preparing you for a harsh world that I became part of the harshness. We sat with that for a moment. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm so sorry. I failed you. And I taught your father and your brother that it was okay to fail you too. I set a pattern and everyone followed it, and you were the one who suffered. I felt tears on my face, but I wasn't sobbing. They just fell, quiet and steady. I don't know if I can forgive you right now, I said. I understand. I don't know if I can trust you. I understand that too. If I let you back in and you dismiss me again, or gaslight me, or make me feel crazy for having feelings, I'm done. Forever. Do you understand? Yes. I need you to believe me. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it means acknowledging that you or Dad or Ethan did something wrong. Even when it makes you look bad. I need you to believe that my experience of reality is valid. I'm trying to learn how to do that. It doesn't come naturally to me. But I'm trying. That's all I'm asking. We talked for 2 more hours. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, there was too much damage for that. But it was a start. She told me about her own childhood, about her own mother, who'd been even more dismissive than she'd been with me. She told me about the pressure she'd felt to raise successful, well-adjusted children, and how she'd thought not coddling them was the path to that. She told me she'd been wrong. We made an agreement. I'd come to one family dinner a month, just one. And if anyone said something dismissive or hurtful, I'd name it in the moment. That feels dismissive to me. That comment hurt. I need you to take me seriously right now. And she'd back me up. Every time. It was clunky at first. That first dinner back was so awkward that I almost left 3 times. But each time someone made a comment that would have previously gone unchallenged, my mom stepped in. Actually, I don't think that's fair to Maya. Let's listen to what she's saying instead of jumping to defend ourselves. That sounded dismissive.
Can you rephrase that?
My dad struggled with it more than anyone. He kept falling back into old patterns, then getting defensive when called out. But slowly, painfully slowly, things started to shift. Ethan and Rachel got married 6 months after the infamous lunch. I was a bridesmaid. During her speech at the reception, Rachel said something that made me cry into my champagne. Marriage isn't just about finding someone you love. It's about finding someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves what they see. But more than that, it's about finding someone who helps other people see themselves more clearly. I love Ethan for many reasons, but one of them is that he's willing to be challenged, to grow, to question the assumptions he grew up with. And I'm grateful to be joining a family that's learning to do the same. She looked right at me when she said it. After the reception, she pulled me aside. How are you doing? Really? I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. Things with my mom have been better. Not perfect, but better.
Good.
You deserve that.
She paused.
Can I tell you something? Of course. That day at lunch, I almost didn't say anything. I almost let it slide because I didn't want to cause problems. I didn't want to be the difficult future daughter-in-law. I'm so glad you said something. Me too. Because here's what I realized. Silence protects the wrong people. It protects the people doing harm, not the people being harmed. And I'd rather be difficult than complicit. I hugged her, probably longer than was socially appropriate. Thank you for seeing me, I whispered. You were always there to be seen. They just weren't looking. That night, lying in bed in my apartment, I thought about the trajectory of the last 6 months. About how one person speaking up had shifted everything. About how years of me saying the same things had been dismissed as dramatic, but one statement from a therapist stranger had been taken seriously immediately. It still stung. It probably always would. There was something fundamentally unfair about the fact that my family only believed I was being hurt after someone outside the family said so. But there was also something liberating about it. Because I'd learned something crucial. I didn't need them to validate my reality for my reality to be real. I'd spent 26 years trying to make them see me, hear me, believe me. And in that desperate seeking of their approval and acknowledgement, I'd made them the arbiters of truth in my own life. Rachel hadn't given me validation I didn't already have. She'd just shown me that I didn't need their permission to trust my own experience. I pulled out my journal and wrote, "Today I realized that the people who love you shouldn't have to be convinced that your pain is real. And if they do need convincing, maybe the problem isn't your pain, it's their love." My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Thank you for being patient with me while I learned to be the mother you deserved all along. I love you."
I stared at it for a long time.
Then I typed back, "I love you too. And I'm proud of us for doing this hard work." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. My family didn't transform overnight into perfect, emotionally intelligent communicators. My dad still defaulted to dismissiveness sometimes. Ethan still occasionally made jokes at my expense. My extended family still thought I was being dramatic about ancient history. But the difference was that now, when it happened, I had backup. I had my mom, learning to catch herself and others. I had Ethan, checking his behavior. I had Rachel, reminding everyone that growth is uncomfortable but necessary. And more importantly, I had myself. I'd stopped seeking their approval. I'd stopped trying to convince them I was worth believing. I'd stopped making myself smaller to fit their narrative of who I was supposed to be. I was 27 now. I'd started a new job in a mental health nonprofit, doing administrative work but learning about therapy and social work. I was thinking about going back to school eventually. I was dating someone kind who believed me the first time I said something hurt. I was still anxious sometimes. Still had panic attacks occasionally. But I had a good therapist, medication that worked, and a support system that validated my experiences instead of questioning them. I'd learned the most important lesson of my life. Some people will never believe you until someone they respect says the exact same thing you've been saying all along. And that's okay. Because you don't need their belief to be right. You just need your own. Last week, I went to family dinner. My grandmother was there. She doesn't come often, but when she does, it's usually eventful. Halfway through the meal, she looked at me and said, "You look healthy. You've gained some weight." The table went silent. Before anyone could jump in to defend her or tell me not to take it the wrong way, I said calmly, "Grandma, comments about my body aren't welcome. Please don't make them again." She looked shocked. "I was just making an observation." "I understand. And I'm telling you that those observations aren't welcome. My body isn't up for discussion." My grandmother looked at my mother, clearly expecting backup. My mom took a breath. "She's right, Mom. Those kinds of comments aren't appropriate." They never were. My grandmother huffed and went back to her meal, muttering something about sensitive millennials. But later, as I was helping clear dishes, my mom pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you," she said. "For what?" "For standing up for yourself.
For teaching me how to stand up for you.
For not giving up on us, even when we gave you every reason to." I hugged her. "Thanks, Mom." As I drove home that night, I thought about 8-year-old me, trying to tell her mom that Grandma's comments hurt. I thought about 12-year-old me, reporting her brother's bullying. I thought about 17-year-old me, begging for help with panic attacks. I wished I could go back and tell all those versions of myself, "You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're not too sensitive. You're exactly right." And one day, they'll see it too. But more importantly, one day you'll stop needing them to see it. Because the person who needed to believe me most was me. And I finally did.